The Lovelorn water goblin, Zamilovaný Vodník. You may not know Vodníks, but they are creatures in Bohemia who live in ponds, lakes, and rivers. They are little green men with long hair and webbed hands and feet. These water goblins are partial to green tailcoats and red boots. You can always recognize them by water dripping from their spiffy tails. Vodníks are often seen sitting in willow trees by waterways. Sometimes they fish, sometimes they swim. On a moonlit night, you may see them darning their coats or sewing their new boots, singing or humming out of tune. Yet they get bored and occasionally play pranks on people, pranks that can get out of hand. They bait the local rummies, set snares for unruly children, and even use colored ribbons to entrap young maidens. When a pretty lass falls in Vodník's brew, she doesn't drown, but must become his wife. She must dust the mugs in which Vodníks keep the souls of the drowned. But under no circumstances is she allowed to peek inside. No wife can abide by such rules. And once she starts lifting the lids, there's no stopping what happens next. If you have ever tried to catch the souls of a few dozen drunkards deep underwater, you can imagine the havoc a Vodník's wife may wreak by opening those mugs. And puff, a horde painstakingly amassed over 300 years by a hard-working middle-aged Vodník goes up in bubbles in the twinkling of an eye. But that would be another story. Vodníks adore mills, mill wheels, mill races, and particularly the miller's daughters. This is the story of one old Vodník who made his home in the sluice of the great mill of Cheras, the village of South Bohemia where my father was born. This Vodník, like all of his kind, made himself at home in the milling room. Nearly every day he would roast his daily catch in the miller's fireplace. Minnows, eels, catfish, or carp and pike. What a mess he made! The miller's wife had to clean up after him when he left, holding her nose to stop the stench that oozed from the remnants of Vodník's dinner. Or maybe from Vodník himself. But what could she do? Too many stories were told of angry Vodníks who would stop the mill wheel, flood the flour stores, pull the miller into the murky depth, or even, God save us all, drown the miller's wife. One day, in this very mill, a wandering puppeteer, who was also a bear tamer, and his huge brown bear, asked for a place to spend the night. The miller let them both sleep in the milling room. They slept soundly enough, but shortly after midnight, a wet plop, 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 the sound of Vodník's feet, woke the bear. The tamer slept like a log, but the bear quietly followed the huge toad in the green suit to the fireplace, where Vodník began to cook his fish. The smell of the fish was mouth-watering. The smell was overwhelming. So when the bear thought the fish was cooked to his taste, he stretched out his paw into the fireplace to pull it out. Come on, kitty, said Vodník, as he slapped the intruding furry paw. Come on, pussycat, this is not for you. But the big guy barely felt the slap. He popped the fish into his maw and reached for another. Get away, kitty, cried Vodník. Get away, tomcat. This is my fish. Mine! He slapped the bear's paw hard, but the bear only blinked as he popped a second fish between his chops. And he reached for a third, and he reached for a fourth. Vodník slammed the bear's paw as hard as he could. This surprised the bear just a smidgen. Then he gave a tiny push that sent Vodník sprawling across the room. What sounds Vodník made! Not unlike a bullfrog croaking. He jumped up to run away. He fumbled with the door handle. He finally managed to open the door and dashed to the mill race, where he dove in with a mighty splash. No sooner did the circus die on the water than the night turned completely silent. The waters were stilled, and the clanking of the mill wheel shivered to a stop. Awakened by the silence, The miller thought for a moment he was 20 years younger, for he remembered how long ago his father stopped the wheel to fit on new paddles carved out of ash wood. Only once his wife whimpered and cursed next to him did he realize that he was in the here and now. His father had been resting in the pleasantly shaded village cemetery for 8 years. And the miller had to deal with some harsh facts of life on his own. But the man had his wits about him and waited until daylight to check the mill race. For that was Vodník's realm. No need to take unnecessary risks. When day did come at last, he went to the sluice and searched under the mill wheel for a log that might have blocked the wheel, but try as he might, he could find no reason for the stoppage. When evening came and Vodník did not appear in the milling room with his bundle of fish, the miller's worst fears were confirmed. It was indeed the green goblin's doing. At the break of the very next day, the miller coaxed Vodník out of the water with freshly fried catfish. After skulking for a while, Vodník reached for the catfish. As he ate, the miller pried his story out of him. It was a story told with anger and indignation. An anger so great that no way, no how would Vodník start the mill wheel again. He finished the catfish, bones, fins, eyeballs, and all, and splash, dove into the sluice. What a service you've done me, the miller told the bear tamer, and right in the middle of the harvest, too. What if I rid you of Vodník for good? Asked the bear tamer. The miller and his wife exchanged a look. Not one thing do I want you to do, said the miller. There is not a prayer to win with them creatures. But the bear tamer wouldn't be stopped. He had his bearings. After his smelly dinner, Vodník would customarily croak an enchanted love song under the window of the miller's daughter, Lidushka. The sweet girl told him this herself the night before, when she and the bear tamer had a nice chat while rocking on the cozy double-wide garden swing. She also told him how hard it was to catch a vodník. For they can rip any rope, break any chain, and escape any trap. But the bear tamer knew the magic power of a juniper wife, the best remedy for a naughty vodník. That very night, the bear tamer waited under Lidushka's window with a pretty juniper branch in his hand. As Vodník's sloshing steps approached and he crowed his love song, Wallaby, wallaby, wallaby. Ooh. The tamer jumped him from behind, pinned him to the ground, and began to bind him with a twisted juniper wife. The vodník yelled juicy curses, some not even known to man. But the tamer only laughed and pulled out another wife. While he was being lashed and whipped, Vodník began to plead, then beg, and finally he broke into tears. At first, the tamer was relentless, but Vodník's crying could melt the heart of any man. Finally, they made a deal. Vodník promised to stop bothering Lidushka, to start the mill wheel again, and to use the miller's stove only on Sundays from 11 to 2. Only then did the tamer release him. For 5 long weeks, the bear tamer stayed at the mill as the miller's pampered guest. And during that time, Vodník did not come close to either Lidushka, the tamer, or his bear. But when the man and his furry friend left, Vodník, feeling that promises are made only for a time, began to haunt the mill again. Intoned under the girl's window, but to his amazement, no angry words flew out the window, nor a shower of slobs. Lidushka had left with the bear tamer. That put an end to the midnight concerts. Since then, the green goblin has grown ever more blue and morose. He barely ever croaks. Holed up in his house in the mirrors, he keeps as mum as fish.